Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Doom Productions podcast. This is a podcast by Doom Productions. We are filmmakers who make movies on YouTube, feature films and short films, and we also make videos about filmmaking and movies in general. And this is our podcast where we get together once a week and we talk about films and filmmaking. I am Jordan. I am a director here at Doom Productions, and usually I am joined by Ethan Hansen. Today, Ethan couldn't make it to the show for a couple of reasons, but so it's just me today. So, first solo episode of the podcast. Welcome. Glad you're here. If you want to know more about us and this podcast or our work, you can find our YouTube channel on YouTube, Doom Productions. You can follow us on social media, just Doom Productions, across the board, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, all that stuff. So today was a pretty typical Doom Productions day, I would say, so far. It is a Thursday evening that I'm recording this on, and we have been in the middle of shooting a little movie called Two Little Ghosts. Two Little Ghosts is a follow-up film to October, which was a feature film that we made last year in October of 2021. Now, October is a part of a much larger project that I've had planned for a few years now called the Halloween Cycle. And the idea with the Halloween Cycle is that something I've noticed growing up, loving the month of October and loving the holiday Halloween, there's not a lot of good Halloween movies. Now, we've discussed this before. Check out, I believe it was episode 1 or 2 of our podcast where we talked about Halloween movies and our kind of what makes a good Halloween movie. So check that out if you want to get more details. So I won't bore you with any of that stuff. But growing up, I kind of realized that, hey, there's not a lot of good Halloween movies out there. And, what I mean by that is there's not a lot of movies that are kind of about the magic of Halloween. Similar to how there's a lot of movies about Christmas, about the magic of Christmas. But there's not a lot of movies about the magic of Halloween. And so when I sit down to watch a movie on Halloween or movies, I'm not looking for horror movies necessarily. I mean, that can be a good part of it. I think a good Halloween movie should be a little bit spooky and scary, but more often than not, it's either one thing or the other. It's usually a really goofy kids movie that captures that magic of Halloween really well, or it's a straight up slasher horror movie, which I like both of those. There's nothing wrong with either of those. And so for me, I had the idea of this project called the Halloween Cycle, which is gets its title from kind of based off of August Wilson's August Wilson's Philadelphia Cycle, which was a series of plays about Philadelphia throughout the decades, and also Matthew Varney's Cremaster Cycle, which is a crazy bunch of films. Which, if you haven't checked out, check it out. It's worth investigating. Anyways, the Halloween Cycle is a series of 31 movies that I would like to make. 31 movies that, in my opinion, capture a better essence of what Halloween is in this time period. And again, hearkening back, it just goes back to that Halloween magic. And the idea is that it's supposed to be very, mixture of the spooky, mixture of the magical, uses imagery that we kind of associate with the holiday in this time period, in a way, and just kind of, put everything, kind of that I feel about Halloween into a series of movies, 31 movies, because the idea is that you would watch one each day in Halloween, like when the project is all over in, I think, 30 years or 30 or 29 years, depending on how you're counting it. Whenever all the movies are out, the idea is that you can sit down on October 1st and watch our movie October. And then October 2nd, you can watch Two Little Ghosts. And then on October 3rd, you'll watch the next movie, which I do have the next two planned out. I have the first four planned out, and I have other ones planned out just in general. I just don't know when I'm going to film them. And that's kind of the project. Make a series of movies that really capture what Halloween is like. For kind of, people living in America and all that. Because it is an interesting holiday. And again, I don't want to retread anything we've already discussed in our other episode of what makes a good Halloween movie. So, I won't repeat anything. But that's kind of, what I've been working on. And my pledge to myself is kind of to make one of these every single year. Whether or not that actually happens, I don't know. Last year, we made October. That was made within 15 days. So we started shooting it wasn't October 1st. I think it was October, I want to say 7th or 8th. We started shooting, the first week or so of October. And we finished it. And when I mean finish, I mean we edited it and it hit export on day 15 of the movie, which is, if you know anything about movie making, that's crazy. And when I look back on that, I'm like, wow, that was insane that we did that and we pulled it off. And the movie turned out not half bad. I don't feel like, it's a perfect movie by any means, and I haven't seen it in a while, but there's some great stuff in it that I absolutely love that is like totally sums up me and my sensibilities as a filmmaker. It is definitely my favorite third act of any of my feature films, probably. Yeah, I think it's probably my favorite third act, I would say for sure. But, I mean, it didn't follow an act structure, so I guess that's kind of a weird thing to say. It didn't follow that 3-act Hollywood thing necessarily, but anyways, October is a movie that, that's the first in the Halloween series. And in that movie, there is a character who pops up, throughout the movie. This ghost trick-or-treater character. And, if you do, I'm going to kind of spoil things a little bit about Halloween, or about our movie October. So if you don't want to be spoiled, go watch our movie, then come listen to this. But in that movie, the idea was that this ghost character, this trick-or-treater, would knock on the main character's door and kind of make it, kind of give this rhythm and pacing to the movie. This kind of regular thing that would happen throughout, that would make you kind of give you some sense of like the bizarre and the weird, but at the same time give everything a sense of normalcy in a weird way, because this trick-or-treater is showing up throughout the month of Halloween, or throughout the night, depending on your interpretation of the movie. Excuse me. And is just asking for candy pretty much. And it's kind of weird. It's kind of spooky and I wouldn't say spooky actually. It's kind of weird and just bizarre. And it's kind of a funny thing. And so this, in this movie, Two Little Ghosts, it's about that character when that character grows up and is an adult, and what that looks like for that character. And so my idea with these movies, these Halloween movies, is that each movie will kind of hint at what's to come in the next one, whether that be the protagonist of the next movie showing up in a small role in the prior movie, kind of like this, where the ghost character is kind of I wouldn't even say a recurring character, but a recurring joke or gag. I mean, the part was shot within 15 minutes when we shot October. It took us 15 minutes to shoot the entirety of the ghost part. It's just peppered throughout October. And now we're making a feature film about that ghost character. And in this movie, I hint at the next protagonist in the follow-up movie. Which that movie, I do have that movie planned out, as I've said, and I don't know when. Hopefully I can shoot it next year. I have several drafts written, but it might be a project that needs to be scaled back because of some other big projects that are coming up next year. And I picture these Halloween movies they're not necessarily like my big projects of the year every single year, because who wants to make just one type of movie every single year? That would be kind of boring. So I kind of want to keep things fresh, keep things varied, and not kind of just do the same thing every single year. And, you know, with this Ghost movie, where we're in the middle of that, and already it's similar then to October, but it's also really different in a lot of ways. I think it's a movie I can see people arguing about whether or not it is a Halloween movie or not. And that's kind of concerning to an extent, because it is I'm out here making a bold claim that these are going to be like the most true Halloween movies ever. But I think they do, because ultimately, like, what happens and kind of the themes of the movie. I think thematically October was way more closer just about Halloween aesthetically. Whereas Two Little Ghost is more about life in general, and how, I guess what Halloween can mean beyond the aesthetic, beyond the pumpkins and the skulls and the scary movies. It's more about, like, kind of the more spiritual meanings of what Halloween can be. And the importance of that. So, what was I saying? Oh yeah, that's right. Okay, so, yeah, so Two Little Ghosts is kind of, it's what we're working on, and it's been, really, really fun to do, but also really challenging in a lot of ways. I mean, the movie, spoiling kind of the BTS, the whole behind the scenes story of it all, I came up with the idea about a year ago, and it's gone through several different versions. I think I got the idea in September of 2020, because I knew I was going to do October. I wrote October in August. I storyboarded it in September. And I came up with the idea with Two Little Ghosts in September, with the idea that if we can't pull off October, we'll shoot Two Little Ghosts. It'll be a movie that we can shoot really easily and really quickly. And after we wrapped October, I believe I started writing / storyboarding Two Little Ghosts. And I got probably halfway through, no, less than halfway through with, I finished the script, got less than halfway through boarding it. And then while I was in December, something happened where I kind of started getting into Blender again, the 3D animation software. It's a really great program. That's a whole nother topic in itself, but I started getting into animation again. And I got this idea in my head that, hey, maybe Two Little Ghosts could be an entirely animated movie. And so I jumped back into storyboarding, after taking, a couple weeks off or so. And I started boarding it as if it was going to be an animated movie. And I finished it, boarding it anyways. And the plan was to do Video Carnage, which was the other feature, our first feature film of 2021. Our plan was to do that, and then to do and then for me to have the rest of 2021 to animate Two Little Ghosts. So, I started animating, I think in February. That's when I really started going hard on, like, beyond doing just like animation tests and learning the basics of animating. I've never animated before. That's another thing. I've never picked up a pen, or like I've never done one of those flip boards or whatever. I think the closest I've done to animating is, remember Captain Underpants? Remember the Fliporamas? I think I did those in like grade school, but beyond that, I've never done any animation before. So, I could have, I probably would have been smarter had I taken more time to learn animation, but the way I work is that, I don't learn unless I'm learning for a goal. And if I force myself to just, this is going to be an all animated movie and you're going to learn animation to do it, like it's going to be my animation school, my art school in a sense, like animating this whole movie. That's how you're going to learn to animate. And that's what it was going to be. And that's how it went for a while. But The problem was that, you know, I thought I underestimated how much work both Video Carnage and Two Little Ghosts would take, animating Two Little Ghosts, because Video Carnage was a very stressful production, very fun production, like when we were on set, but in between is really stressful, and I wasn't able to get a lot of animating done, and not as much as I like. I think and once it was over, I didn't animate as much as I had, planned out. And so the problem was, this was now June pretty much. This is June, and I was supposed to be done with the entire animated feature film in October of 2021. So that was, let's see, June, July, August, September, October. Yeah, 4 months. 4 months to animate an entire feature film. Now, I had got a good chunk out of it. I'd seriously gotten a really good chunk into it. I got 10 minutes. The movie was going to be 60 minutes. I got 10 minutes. I got a sixth of the way there. That's pretty good, I want to say. Now, the quality was not amazing, but I had done it. Because again, I wasn't striving for quality. I was striving for what was going to teach me. I didn't really care if two shots didn't stylistically match up exactly. As long as I learned whatever technique I needed to learn. But, once Video Carnage was all over and behind, I realized that I could not animate this entire movie. So I took a break, took some thinking, because it was a bummer, because I was, just between you and me, this podcast or whatever, I wasn't looking forward to Video Carnage as much as I was looking forward to Two Little Ghosts. I mean, this is a story that's been in my head for over a year now. Super personal, a lot of different kind of stuff went into it. And, this was going to be my big movie. Video Carnage was supposed to be kind of a little quick movie that we shot really quickly. And Two Little Ghosts was supposed to be this bigger production. And it kind of ended up that both now are bigger productions, which is kind of funny, I guess, because we're just incapable of scaling things down. Anyways, so I decided that once I got to June and I realized that I had 4 months to animate a feature film, and I kind of sat down, I did the calculations, I figured out how many shots I would need to animate each day. I figured out it was physically impossible for me to even finish the movie by the end of the year. So that was a real bummer, because I had two options. I could either animate the movie but plan for it to come out next year, or I do a live action version. And it was one of those things where I felt it should have been it was originally intended to be live action. But once the animation thing got in my head, I couldn't get it out of my head. And I'd done all this work towards learning how to animate and making this project that, I felt like, gee, now, I mean, I know it was envisioned to be live action, but now that it's 2D animation, like, that's kind of hard to ignore. That's kind of hard to, that's really a cool idea, I thought. And where I settled on the movie, ultimately, I went back and forth for a while, deciding whether or not to even do the movie anymore and whether or not to just scrap it aside. Well, I mean, what really convinced me to push through was that, every time I read the script, or every time I flipped through the storyboards, I felt something that you don't always feel when you are writing, if that makes sense. Like, usually when I write, I'll read a project and I'll be like, okay, I think this is good, this is bad, blah, blah, blah. I'll kind of judge it, based on that. What I don't always feel is like, oh my gosh, I think like there's something meaningful here. Like, some part of me is on this page. Some part of me is in these storyboards, on the script. I felt a deep connection with the material, and every time I got to certain parts in the script, it would move me in ways which sounds kind of egotistical to say, and maybe it is, but genuinely, whenever I got to certain parts in the screenplay and in the storyboards, I would think about what that would look like in live action or 2D in animation, and I'm thinking about what that, you know, that moment. And I was like, for those moments alone, for these kind of, you know, parts of the movie, these stories, these moments, those moments alone are worth pushing through. And if I can't do it, I'll never do it. Because in my head, I was thinking, oh, maybe I don't do it this year, but I'll do it in a few years or next year. But I ultimately was, you know, I kind of put that limit on myself where I told myself, you know, if you can't get this movie done this year, you're never going to do it. So it's now or never. And, you know, that's just what my brain needs to hear. That's kind of my thinking and my mentality when it comes to, you know, making hard decisions. Because I hate dragging things out for a long time. And I knew if I didn't do it this year, if I'd stuck with the fully animated project and, you know, dragged it on for years and years and years, oh my gosh, that would kill me. And then also, like, the footage wouldn't have been any good. You know what I mean? Like, because I'm learning to animate. It's supposed to be something quick. Well, not quick, relatively quick, to teach me how to animate. And if it's going to take years and years and years, I come out with this kind of, you know, half-baked product that wasn't very appealing to me personally. Now, I would still love to do a fully 2D animated movie. I have plans on doing that in the future. But with this movie, the material was too important to me to just kind of put in a kind of, again, half-baked project. So this is what I came up with. I came up with the idea that it would be live action for the most part with 2D animated sequences and moments throughout. And that's what I've been working on. I mean, for the past, let's see, I think it was in July when I started working on this new version. So essentially what I did was in June, I rewrote the script because there's just some things I wasn't totally happy with. And I re-storyboarded everything. And I then decided to reanimate a key sequence in the movie. And I finished that in September, I believe, from July to September. And I calculated it. It took me 59 hours to be able to animate all that. Now, that's not consecutive hours, but that's just in general. You know, doing an hour a day or a couple hours a day or however long. There are some days I would sit in my chair. This is in the summer. I would sit down at like 10 o'clock and I wouldn't move until like 9 p.m. So I was at my chair at my desk all day, just animating, working on this project. And it was really fun, really, you know, got a lot. I mean, the idea with animating this stuff was to, okay, think of it like, okay, this other version of the movie, this other 2D animated version of the movie, that was kind of my warm-up. So let's take everything I've learned now and redo this part of the movie, which is kind of this key moment in the movie. And so I finished that in September, and there's still a little bit more to go, but most of the animation is done, pretty much. I would say 99% of the animation is done. What we've been doing is now we've been shooting the movie. Now, unfortunately, I mean, you know this episode is coming out the day after Halloween. The movie obviously did not come out yesterday, and that's because we're still working on it. This is the Thursday before Halloween. We have our last day of shooting is tomorrow, Friday. And it's been a process. It's a movie that, you know, usually I am very go, very on top of scheduling, very on top of organizing everything, very traditional when it comes to, I guess, you know, scheduling myself and organizing, all that media management, all that kind of stuff. This project's a little bit different. Once I knew I was going to make this movie this year, I decided to strip everything back and make it and design the movie to be easy to film. And so something that I could do, you know, Video Carnage required lots and lots of time every single day, every single week for months on end. And so this was designed to be something that we could shoot in a month, essentially, with, you know, keeping in mind that, you know, I'd be working and all that kind of stuff. And so with with Two Little Ghosts, it's been I've taken a more laid back approach because the stress of video carnage is still is still with me. I still feel that, and honestly, I still feel scared to jump back into a production like that. Um, I know I told myself I'd take a break from filmmaking after I did Video Carnage, but I did Two Little Ghosts, and I don't quite feel like I'm out of that break because in a way, taking a more laid back approach to the movie making is almost making it stressful in a different way. It's still stressful, just stressful in a different way. Because the actual stuff we're shooting, I mean, if I'm honest with you, I think we could have shot this movie in a week, Sunday to Saturday. I don't have the time now because, last year we were in lockdown and pandemic and I wasn't working full time. So, now I don't have that time to be able to invest. If I did have the time, we would have shot this movie in a week, probably edited it in the next. And now, it's kind of one of those things where I spend a couple hours on it each day, and then I move, I go to bed. I go to work. I work full time, work on this a couple hours, go to bed, and then rinse and repeat. And so it's breaking down what's different about this production is just it's kind of interesting. And I think after this movie, I will be taking a break from filmmaking for a while. How long, I'm not sure. I will make a movie next year, whether that's end of 2022 or mid 2022. I don't know, but I know I'm definitely taking a much needed break from feature filmmaking as a writer director. Now, I'm still going to be a part of feature films, of course. There's some really great projects coming up that I'm excited to be a part of. But just as like kind of the spearhead, I don't feel like I've had time to just sit and think and breathe and just live life and enjoy life on its own. Because movies, I mean, we started Video Carnage production. I mean, I started writing that in January of 2021, I believe. And it's now end of October. It's almost November. And so every single month of this year, so January, February, March, April, May, that was all Video Carnage and Two Little Ghosts. Everything since May has been Two Little Ghosts for me as a writer-director. But then I've also been a part of The Bell Rings, been a part of See You Soon, been a part of Wild Boys, been a part of some other projects that I can't talk about right now. And it's just been, I've been go mode, I've been work mode, and I'm just kind of tired, to be honest. I still love filmmaking, still like it a lot. I just need a little break. And, I can't remember the original point that I was trying to make with all this. This seems like just quite a long tangent already. But all this to say, Two Little Ghosts is going to be happening. My goal as of now is to finish it up, editing wise, because it's going to be all shot by tomorrow night. But editing wise, I'm going to finish it up, within a couple of weeks, and then we'll see where it goes from there, and we'll check on the release date. Follow us for updates. Everything will be updated through our channel, of course, our YouTube channel. That's where you can find any new information about Two Little Ghosts. But yeah, Two Little Ghosts. It's coming out. It's very excited. A lot of fun. I don't want to say what it's about yet, because in my opinion, in the age of YouTube filmmaking, one of the most beautiful things about YouTube filmmaking is that you can go into a movie and not know anything about it. Now, of course, you can do that with Hollywood movies too. Like, you can ignore previews and trailers and just go into them fresh. But I think, it's a lot harder to do when advertisements are everywhere, and it's a lot harder to kind of, hide under a rock, because, Last Night in Soho is coming out. Well, I guess it's coming out tonight on the Thursday, and I've been wanting to see that for a while. I've intentionally avoided a lot of trailers for it, like the newest one. And then, of course, what happens is when I went to go see Halloween Kills a few weeks ago, what's playing in front of that movie? The Last Night in Soho trailer. And it was pretty spoilerific, if I do say so. Now, I haven't seen the movie, so I don't know, but it looks like it gave away a little too much for my liking. And so, and so I just appreciate YouTube's ability, releasing movies on there is you really don't know anything about it unless, you tell the audience. And so what I will say about Two Little Ghosts is that it's also a movie that I think is better if you don't know anything going into it, really. I think here's what I can say. It's got, well, obviously it's got animated sequences. You know that it's got how do I say it? I wouldn't say musical numbers, but it's got music throughout. Nah, screw it. I'll say music. It's got some musical numbers in it. It's become quite a bit of a mixed media project, and I think once you see the movie, it'll make sense. And it's divided into two halves, I'll say. So the kind of subtitle that hasn't been revealed until now is it's Two Little Ghosts parentheses and Two Little Acts end parentheses. So that's kind of the idea behind the movie. So, and it's about Halloween, like the other ones, and it's got some it's got some fun stuff in it. I've been enjoying it, especially like starting to edit it. That's been a really fun process, and just seeing it come to life. I think over the last year, I've really learned that editing is becoming my favorite part of the filmmaking process. I really, really enjoy just kind of everything finally coming together, music, sound, the cinematography, the editing. Like, editing is what makes movies unique to me. Editing is what makes everything, how do you say, it's what makes cinema. Because if you separate any of those elements, movies is just made of other art forms. I mean, cinematography is just photography. Acting is acting. Script is just literature. If you have special effects or like model making, that's sculpture, that's architecture. You have music, that's just, composing. That's music. And so what makes movies unique is combining all of that into one thing. But I mean, at a more technical level, I mean, I've said this before, movies is it's the manipulation of time and space. And why am I talking about that? Oh my gosh. I'm sorry, everyone. I'm so scatterbrained right now. It's been a long day. I've been up since 4:30. It is now 8:30. And I mean 4:30 a.m. It is now 8:30 p.m. And it's getting a little close to my bedtime. But so I'm a little scatterbrained. I was talking about Two Little Ghosts, and it's been fun to do in editing. And I've learned that editing is the most fun part of the process, essentially, for me. It's where I really feel engaged and I'm really enjoying it. But at the same time, I'm also realizing that there's some parts of the filmmaking process that I used to be kind of really, I used to love that I'm not enjoying so much. And maybe because it's not new to me anymore, it just kind of feels like a chore. But yeah, filmmaking, it's, we've said it before, but filmmaking is just problem solving essentially. And it's really, really, it's really collaborative. Even when you are making a movie with just two people, that's even more collaborative, I would say. It's a collaborative medium, and parts of that are really stressful. Parts of that are really beautiful. Like this year, I've worked with some great people on movies. Worked with May, who's been on the show, but you can see them in our other movies. I've worked with Bellamy, who we've met this year through Video Carnage and is now part of The Bell Rings and Two Little Ghosts as well. And there's collaborators we've worked with a long time who I mean, like May, and just like there's no better feeling than like nailing a take that you've been trying to get, and the director rail's cut, and it's like we got it, and you feel it, and the crew feels it, and it's like the best feeling in the world when you're trying to get something tricky done. But there's also like things that aren't so fun, like like scheduling, and scheduling problems, and you know what happens when it's, I mean, sorry, this awkward pause is going to make it, that I realize that awkward pause makes it sound like I'm trying to think of what to say, like in like there's some secret drama behind Doom Productions. There's not. Like, collaborating with people is really, really fun, but honestly, I would say I was just thinking about like what else besides scheduling is a real hassle, and I can't think of any really. Scheduling is just at our level, because we can't pay people to, you know, quit their jobs for a week or two. So scheduling is just honestly the most biggest hassle. So usually what film sets typically end up being is you have a couple of hours out of a day to meet up with people. And if you don't get, and you never feel like you have enough time in the day. You're always squeezing everything you can into that, time slot that you have. And you have no idea whether or not it'll work, like if you'll get everything, or if you need to add another day to the schedule. And I'm pretty big on scheduling and staying on top of that stuff. I'm pretty anal retentive about just keeping running a tight ship. And, when you are relying so much on other people and their schedules and everything, that's tricky. I mean, even with like, what's a good example? Even with like, well, Ethan's schedules and I are pretty in sync. But I would say with whenever you bring, Ethan and I, we can kind of synchronize pretty easily. But whenever we throw a third or fourth or fifth person into that mix, that's now like a lot of planning that has to go into that. And that's just, stressful in itself. I mean, I don't know about you all, but I get stressed out just sending text messages to people when it comes to planning. And that's a lot of what scheduling does, is just texting people or emailing people or whatever, however you communicate. It's, it's pretty, yeah. So where's it going with that? Yeah, I guess. So I guess what I mean to say is that when it comes to filming on set or on location, whenever it comes to like showing up to a place, having your storyboards, having your script pages ready, having a game plan, having an attack plan of how to film a movie or whatever, how you film your scene, get your shots or whatever, I feel like I'm not enjoying that as much because the stress has just been, I feel the pressure. I guess that's the best way to put it. I feel the pressure of making something, and I want it to be good, and I want it to be perfect. And I know that things won't be perfect. I know that something will go wrong. And it's just hard, and it's just a little stressful. But, you can't let that stress stop you from achieving your dreams. Like, if your dream is to be a movie maker and someone's not available to film on Saturday, when they were like, if an actor pulls out of filming on like a Saturday and you're scheduled to film Saturday, are you going to let them stand in the way of your dream? Are you just going to quit? Are you just going to be like, okay, movie's not happening. Okay, like it's now the end of the world. Okay, maybe I'm not cut out to be a filmmaker. No, like if your dream is to be a filmmaker, you can't let anything stand in the way of that. With the exception of like hurting someone, I think. Yeah, but if your dream's to be a filmmaker, you can't like let those little things bother you. The way I look at it is, filmmaking is really stressful, but pursuing any career, pursuing any dream is going to be stressful. Any kind of dream you have, it's going to take lots of years of work and dedication and perseverance. And filmmaking is no different. And I know it feels like we're alone, But we're not alone, because there's lots of other filmmakers out there who are there struggling beside us, who are there with us. There's people who are successful filmmakers, and they struggled, and they did the same thing that we are doing now. I mean, every great started out as one of us, essentially, and we're all trying to figure it out. So, that's, I mean, there's other filmmakers with you, but I mean, and again, we might feel like this is a unique thing to filmmaking, but I don't, is it struggling to pursue our dreams? I mean, that's just something that you go through in life in general with anything. I mean, I work at a school. I work with someone who, she's a grad student, and she's working full time at a school. And it's like, oh my gosh, when do you have time to do anything? It's like, go to work, go to class, do homework, and that's it. Like, it's like, oh my goodness, that is a struggle. That is a hard, she's working hard. I think about like people who want to be teachers or training to be firemen or firefighters. I mean, people who want to be writers, or people who want to be like artists or anything like that. Any career that you can think of, any dream that those people have. Like if you have a dream career, dream job, or whatever, like that's a struggle achieving it, and you cannot let little stresses get in your way. You can't let one bad Saturday stop you from pursuing your dream. And more important than that, you can't let yourself stop yourself from pursuing your dream. And I've talked about this before, and I think there's going to be a video about it coming out pretty soon, that I made about inspiration versus discipline. And I've talked about this before, but I think it's really important that you persevere and you chip away at the ice block every single day, because ultimately, good, healthy, creative habits are really important to have if you want to be a successful artist or filmmaker, in my opinion anyways. I think doing something creative every single day will really help you out when it comes to making movies, because it's hard to, I mean, it's easy to just, get into the habit of coming home, totally tired after a day of work and just being like, I just want to watch TV. I want to veg out on the couch. I want to blah, 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 blah. And then, comes the end of the weekend or whatever, and it's like, or the night, and you go to bed and it's like, oh, I haven't done anything creative today. I've worked my butt off for another company or another person, and then I come home and I don't give any of my time and energy for myself. And so I think that's a bit of advice I'd give to creative people out there who are not making money off of their art and their passion is, one, you got to do something with that passion every day. Your creativity is a muscle, and you have to use it every single day, or else one day you're going to realize that, hey, that muscle isn't very strong. You got to exercise it every single day. I think an analogy I've given before is like, if you want to be a bodybuilder, you have to get in the gym every day and you have to exercise. Otherwise, you're not going to be a bodybuilder. Now, using that metaphor, not everybody needs to be the filmmaking equivalent of a bodybuilder. That's fine. If you just want to make movies when you have the time and you feel like it, that's your prerogative. That's totally cool. There's nothing wrong with that. But if you want to do filmmaking for a living, if you want to become better as an artist, you got to put the work in. And that's that. And then the other bit of advice I'd give to filmmakers out there is who are not making a living off of their filmmaking is conserve your energy. Learn to compartmentalize your mental energy. And what I mean by that, kind of like what I just said, I'm assuming if you're not making money off of making movies or, being an artist or writer or whatever, I'm assuming you have a job, full-time job or part-time job. Don't allow yourself, when you go to that job, now this is going to sound weird and maybe lazy is not the right word, but kind of entitled maybe, I don't know. Anyways, when you go to your job, do the work. I mean, hopefully it's a job that you enjoy, but do the work, do your best at it, but don't let it become so draining that when you come home, you have no juice in the tank. You know what I mean? There are parts of my job that are very difficult and a struggle, and I need that energy to, do my work there. But there's other parts of it where I know that like I can let it get to me. I can use my energy now, or I can kind of save it in the tank for when I get home, and I need that little boost to project me into doing something creative. And I know that sounds vague. It sounds like kind of loosey-goosey and not specific, but I mean, what I mean by that is, again, like, don't put all your energy and time into something else and not have any of it go to your dreams. You know what I mean? Like, you need that. Like, why not? You're putting in, it's something you want. You want to like become a filmmaker. You want to be an artist. You want to be a musician or whatever. Don't let, a 9-to-5 job. Don't let a job, not a career. Don't let a job, like a day job, don't let that stop you from pursuing your dreams. Because that's what happens with a lot of people, is they get stuck in a rhythm and a groove and a rut. And it's just easier just to go with the flow rather than change and progress. And so, and I know it's hard, and it's hard to be able to do that and to kind of forge your own path, or kind of be the master of your dreams and pursue your dreams and whatnot. That's hard to do, especially when, you got bills to pay, you got responsibilities you got to take care of, and you're busy all the time. I get that, but I mean, do the best you can, and then you can never, at that point, like, even if you fail, you can at least tell yourself, hey, I gave it my best, and you give it your best, in my opinion, by doing a little work every single day, and saving your energy for that creative work, which can be sometimes really, really difficult to do. Yeah. So I don't know how I got on that tangent. I'm sorry, everyone. As I've said, I've been up for almost what time is it now? Yeah, I've been up for a long time. Long time. 16 hours, I think, right? Because it's roughly, because from 4 to 8, that's 8 hours. From 4 to 12, that's 8 hours, and from 12 to 8, that's another 8 hours. So yeah, I've been up for about 16 hours, and I'm a little sleepy. Yeah. So that's the podcast for this week. I hope you enjoyed listening to me ramble about Halloween and animation and Two Little Ghosts and pursuing your dreams and your career, all that sort of thing. I hope you enjoyed it. If you liked it, if you want to hear more of me rambling, if you want to hear more information about filmmaking and filmmaking tips, and if you want to see some awesome feature films, subscribe to this channel. It costs you like a second, takes you just a second to do, and something really awesome might pop up in your feed one day. So if you're on our YouTube channel, hit subscribe, hit like. If you are listening to us on Spotify, head on over to our YouTube channel and subscribe to us over there. Again, takes you a couple seconds, but something really awesome might pop up in your feed one day. So we really appreciate you listening to this. I hope you have an excellent week. Hope you have a great couple of days going forward, and I will see you on the next one.